jalopy.music on the Folk Sequence channel, and today we got something a little different. I've found this under $1,000, get you going. You know, my personal preferences. I haven't used all this gear. I do have the amp. Other than that, it's mostly research, and not only that, but you know, a lot of thinking now, especially from a DAW music producer perspective. What do I want? You know, and like EQ, compression. There's no compression in here really, but EQ, compression. You know, delay. You know, vibrato, reverb. Let's see here. We have we have distortion really through an overdrive, clean boost, humbucker pickups, lightweight guitar, and you know, cheap, but value. So under $1,000. Quick overview, we have a guitar, we have a 2-pedal pedalboard basically, and we have an amp, right? So you're getting a tube amp. I really feel like this is kind of insane for under $1,000. All right, so first, the guitar. I don't have this guitar. I do have a guitar, you know, it's not super expensive. Let's see, this would be about twice the price of this, but under $600. Epiphone is Gibson, Squier, I own a Squier, and it is Fender, basically, well, somewhat made in the US versus overseas, but Fender, you know, comes from various countries also. And so let's focus. Epiphone. Why did I pick this one out? Mainly because I think it's probably about as good as my guitar, maybe not quite, but about half the price, so $279. And I'm kind of like, okay, you know, it's not super popular. You see, this is on Sweetwater, who will, you know, so I have a mix of Sweetwater for new stuff and Reverb for used. Based on the Reverb availability and prices, you know, the price was, well, I guess it was just availability, because really if the price was any lower at this cut rate, I would go with the used. I also look for free shipping. Sweetwater has free shipping, so the price you see plus tax, right? And they set it up for you. That's really nice. When you buy a guitar from Sweetwater, they're going to unwrap it, you know, have somebody play it and set it up for you, and it will be ready to go when you get it, which is a fantastic service. And so let's see here. Oh, I would, you know, 6 reviews, not a high number of reviews. They are 5 stars. And I would be a little suspicious. It does not seem to be a super popular guitar, but the price and lightweight humbucker, I'm kind of sold. From what I understand, this is more of a aggressive bite guitar versus a thick guitar, right? Kind of the, I would say, Fender, like a Telecaster is kind of like a, you know, I think on like the bridge pickup, and you kind of get this nice, you know, bite to it, versus Les Paul, a Gibson Les Paul, right? It's just like this rich, thick, like lower bass tones. Boom, 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 boom. I would say from a producer perspective, if I'm thinking a band, right, you got a bass guitar in there, you got a kick drum. You don't want your guitar down there. So I would say I'm looking for that aggressive bite, right? That mid-range, upper mid-range punching through, right? And so obviously, you know, style of music, I would say you're talking about jazz, kind of clean, but not always super clean. And then you've got kind of blues rock and folk rock kind of in the center, where you want really like an overdrive tone. And I would say you probably want that bite. You know, it'd probably be good to have 2 guitars in a band, covering both. But you know, if you're just solo guitarist looking for good value. And then I lost my train of thought. But okay, so the guitar. Oh, why do I trust this thing? Sorry, I got off track. I trust this thing because it's ugly. Right? This is the main thing, I think. Why is this not popular? How is this so low priced and not popular? I'm saying because it's real ugly. Everything about it is terribly ugly. The body shape, it's kind of like this devil horn shape, but it's like this, it doesn't feel like metal, you know, so it's like out of place. It kind of looks more, you know, especially with the headstock, right? Headstock kind of looks, you know, old. You know, old style, 60s or 50s, you know, kind of a clunky kind of feel, but then the body doesn't really match. You can see right here, the cable comes out of the front, which is kind of retro, you know, and probably not as ergometric, right? Ergonomic. But for what I care about, it's really lightweight. aggressive bite, more than thick, and humbucker. I mean, my guitar actually has single coil, and so I'm like, $279. I feel like this is a deal. 6 reviews, but 5 stars. Ugly as hell. So I would say, if you're looking to get started on guitar, I think you could do way worse than this bad boy. Then we have the pedal board, right? And really the pedal, I put these, on the left here in order of your chain, right? You have your guitar, cable. I don't have cables in here, but it's about $932, I think it came out to. So you got under 1,000. Cables are expensive. You need, 2 guitar cables, and then what? You need one little patch cable, right? These pedals probably come with a block adapter, AC adapter, power. So you're not going to have to buy power, I don't think, but that would be a concern, right? But pretty much you're ready to go here. So I put them in the order that they go through the chain, right? Your guitar, basically this would be overdrive, would be probably the best way to describe that. And then delay. Again, I've kind of picked these out to be very multifunctional. Again, from the kind of the music producer, what do I want to do before something gets into my mix? What could actually be done, right? I guess the other thing from a music producer that's not on here is a microphone, right? And I would definitely say the standard, if you want to get this into your computer, right, then you're talking about Shure SM57. I don't know, I didn't look up the price on that. And then you want an audio interface, right? So, stuff costs money, right? But you're probably talking about another $300 on the low end there if you buy, like a value thing, right? You're not buying crap, but stuff that will last a reasonable amount of time at a good price. $300, maybe $400, But this will get you playing in your bedroom or your living room, right? You can play out loud with this stuff. Just harder to get into your computer. Now, if you take the amp out, because this is a tube amp, which I would say go with the tube amp in my opinion and experience. The main thing is that a tube amp won't, it's kind of not versatile in what's coming out of it, right? Basically just got the sound that you got a mic up, right? And so, another amp might have a line level output, right, that you could go into an audio interface into your computer. But what you do have here is if you just bought the audio interface, or if you already own it, right, you can use the amp for playing out loud. You do lose it. Also, the amp has reverb and tremolo, which are easy to get in a DAW, right? So that's not a big deal. The amp sound, well, I am Brian Edwards, jalopy.music, https, //jalopy.music. We sell pedal plugins, and we sell a tackle box amp emulator, right? So you can buy our amp emulator and put that in your DAW. Let me go back to my thought here. Getting this into computer, right? Guitar, pedal. Now you basically have a line out, right? This is I guess instrument and line, right? Line's higher and instrument and mic is lower, something like that. But you have a signal here coming out of this memory man that is not so hot where you like an amp. This actual amp I actually own, and it has an out for a second speaker, or you can send that to what's called a load box, which takes it down to line and basically creates a bunch of heat, but that, don't go that route. Basically, you want to mic it up, right? But if you don't want to spend money on a mic and you do have an interface, another thing with this setup is you go straight from the memory man into your audio interface, into your computer. You can have some sort of amp simulator, either mine, Tacklebox on jalopy.music, or there's other ones out there. I will say kind of two different types of amp simulators, right? One is the kind, Tacklebox. What does it do? It tries to get down to the circuits of the amp, the gain, the EQ, and the saturation, right? What are the, in a tube amp, I think it's all analog. There might be I don't know if there's anything digital in there. even with like reverb and tremolo. I think everything is an analog circuit inside of there. And so basically the idea is in a computer program to kind of convert those analog circuit components into math, right? So it's like all this code with math of like, what does a resistor do? What does this do? Or even at higher level, right? Like what does this module do within this thing? The other style is like machine learning and impulse response, right? Where you have like they record an amp and a cabinet in a room and send it like different. I think they actually do like super broad frequency and kind of all the way up and down. And they have a mic, a really good mic, sitting in there and recording, the actual sound and kind of the the cabinet is a big part of the sound of an amp, right? Kind of how things are bouncing around inside the box. And so like something like Tacklebox does, it's primarily focused in the UI and what you can tweak and the presets. You are changing, you can change like the order of the EQ, the nature of the settings of the EQ. So it's extremely like fundamental, right? Like if you want to go in and kind of explore and create an amp that doesn't exist, right? That's Tacklebox. If you want something that, you have your favorite amp and you want to try to nail it, right? That is this kind of more like neural network, machine learning, impulse response type thing, where the computer program doesn't understand the guts of an amp at all. It understands kind of input, sent this frequency in, and I got this out kind of a thing. So there you go. So you could, in this chain, let me get back, under $1,000 starter setup. I really believe, especially if you're going from kind of a bluesy rock to folk rock kind of middle there in my mind of guitar tone, less jazz. I wouldn't say that I know or am trying to nail like your initial under $1,000 jazz setup. I'd imagine you could do okay with this, right? I mean, I can't really see anything in here that would be like terrible for jazz. And then I think probably would be better for jazz because you probably like, you probably want a little overdrive, a little breakup on the amp is possible. You're kind of getting up in there, just give it some character. But I would say this setup would definitely have trouble with like, getting into heavy metal kind of stuff, right? There you really need a distortion. Probably the amp is wrong, probably the guitar is wrong. So I'd say this is not like a heavy metal setup. I think it would do better for jazz on that end than it would do for heavy metal. But my sweet spot, kind of alt country, outlaw country, Neil Young, folk rock, Big Thief, kind of the more modern folk rock, bluesy rock stuff. I think that you can do all right here, with a cheap guitar, 2 pedals, and this amp. But these are very, I think quality value, but also packing a lot of very important punch, right? Very important features, getting that in each step, right? So you need fewer steps, because it just takes money to make a box, right? And send it in the mail. So we want fewer boxes, lower price, and there is a trade-off with a pedal. I own pedals that are a huge headache, 6 knobs, like a little alt function button. So each knob, it has 2 functions, but obviously a physical knob can only show you 1 setting. So yeah, it's just too much load on the mind, especially when you don't know the pedal and you're trying to figure it out. It's easy to get lost. These pedals seem to hit the sweet spot, right? It's like, I know they both have, one has 5 and one has 6, but importantly, the 6 here, you can see just 1 label. I don't own the memory man, but I can see that it doesn't have any alt function that I can tell, right? So what you see is what you get, right? The feedback knob is going to have a setting and that's controlling feedback. That's very important to me. And so, yeah, so kind of balancing that simplicity, definitely, the KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. I absolutely believe that, except for you need just enough complexity, especially here where you're getting more simple because you have two pedals that do a whole lot. You're getting a little more complex because each pedal is doing more. And there are some trade-offs. Obviously, this is under $1,000. I'd say a major trade-off here, right? Even though it sounds great, it's like, man, these pedals can do everything. Is that a lot of times with guitar pedals and pedal boards, you want to kind of have gain, which distortion, overdrive, even like a console, that will break up pedal. Let's see, fuzz, right? So these distortions, right? You kind of want to like stack them, and you could use them individually, but kind of the idea is to have them, or clean boost. Geez, there's so many, there's so many gain pedals, right? But let's say you have 3 stacked. I think that's a pretty reasonable. You could obviously stack 2, 3, 4. I think 2, 3, or 4 would be kind of what you'd expect in the pedal board. And what you would do is you'd have like just the first one. I mean, so none of them enable you have clean, right? So you have your amp pretty clean, before it's breaking up. And these are going to do 2 things each, right? They're going to boost the signal and push your amp into breakup because you're right there just below it. And then they're also going to kind of add their own distortion, their own texture to it. Really EQ. They're really, each one, it's kind of like the tackle box plugin that I'm selling on my website, jalopy.music. It is doing gain, EQ, and basically operational amplifier saturation, right? So that's another term. I think I shouted out fuzz, distortion, overdrive, clean boost, and then there's another term, saturation. And yeah, I would, they all have kind of, different meanings and different precision, but then also the word distortion could be used as an umbrella term. Anyways, that's fine. But yeah, kind of this gain staging, right? You have, let's say 3 pedals, right? Maybe you have like a clean boost, an overdrive, and a distortion. I think that would be pretty basic setup. Fuzz at the front is also could be in there as the 4th. And yeah, like I said, a lot of times you'd just be using one of those because a fuzz sounds different from a distortion, that sort of thing. But also you can use them, let's say, overdrive and clean boost. So you're playing clean and then you push your overdrive and you get kind of warm, fuzzy, mid-range type feel, I don't know who to say, because I know Neil Young didn't actually use pedals. But I'll say this, probably the best, overdrive, what does it sound like, is the Tube Screamer, right? That's kind of the basis, right? The Tumnus is named after a centaur, right? So it's a character in the wardrobe, the blah, 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 with the lion and, whatever that story is. And so Tumnus is the name of the character, and he is a centaur. And so centaur, Klon, so there's a company called Klon, the Tumnus Deluxe, and the Tumnus, this one's the Deluxe, is made by Wampler. And so the Klon Centaur, it's kind of hard to find now. I don't know what price is, but I think it's more availability. It's very popular, and I don't think it's being made. It also does not have active EQ, so one of the reasons why I have the Wampler Tumnus Deluxe, which has the active EQ, is the fact that the original Centaur that everybody loves, right? So it doesn't have active EQ. So, and I don't think it's widely available right now. And so, anyways, trying to describe this tone, right? So, so you have clean, you hit it in your overdrive, and then before your overdrive, you have a clean boost. So you want to get it going a little more, even though it's still kind of an overdrive sound, just like breaking up more. I mean, you're pushing the amp harder, you're pushing the overdrive pedal harder, you click in the clean boost. And yeah, so this is the idea that you have these stages. And the reason why I brought that up is that my under $1,000 setup here does not have that. Right, that's one thing. We have 2 pedals, but the second one is effects. Right, it's delay and it has a couple other effects in there, but it's not going to add boost or crunch, or maybe it will boost, but that's definitely not what it's for. So let's see here. The guitar, the pedal number 1, the Tumnus, which is basically a overdrive. Getting you some crunch, right? Pushing your amp more and getting you some crunch. Then this pedal, which I know is super popular, Electro Harmonix, which is a big shop, been around forever, and big corporation, not like a boutique like a guy in a garage, right? But I see this all the time on the YouTubes, right? I do not own it. I do have a chorus vibrato pedal that I like. I have a delay pedal that I don't like. So yeah, this is kind of like my dream, right? If I was going back, more educated now, had $1,000, I would definitely buy this guy. And so let's work a little bit backwards here as far as these audio effects we're getting through this chain. And we look at the amp, and really the amp was really picked by me. I didn't know I was going to try to go under $1,000. I think probably this actually motivated me to be like, I think I can do this under $1,000, right? Because this amp new is like $1,000, $1,100, right? And this is the amp I own, and I bought it new, so I'm a little pissed, right? I'm like, damn, $300, oh my God. But the reason why this is in this setup, as I was kind of thinking through this, because this really started with the idea of active EQ on some sort of distortion, probably overdrive given my genre, but yeah, some sort of distortion pedal with a 3-band, high, mid, low EQ on it. And so there's probably another one out there. I've looked, and I think the Wampler Tumnus Deluxe might be the only pedal out there that can do that. Kind of surprising to me, because that is, to me, audio engineer kind of thing. I'm like, man, that is, when you EQ gain, you're not just like dialing, it's like you are changing the device, right? You're changing. I mean, that's like the fundamentals of how an amp works, right? Is why does a Marshall and a Vox and a Fender amp, tube amps? I mean, they're all why do people think like, oh, they're a Fender person, right? That's the tone that they rely on, right? Where does that come from, right? It's because they've made all these choices. They're pushing a signal through a couple stages of preamp and power amp tubes. So a couple stages of tube saturation, basically. But that signal, they've made all these choices with these circuits, right? Before and after each stage of they're EQing it, right? I think purposefully, and I think a little bit of it, you kind of can't help it, right? You're choosing something to send the signal through in these analog circuits, and so I think both dialed in and chosen, and I really think that's where that difference, right, comes from. So I was thinking, oh, this is a great topic, $1,000, 5-minute video, but we will see here. I just hope right now that this is running, right? That this is actually picking up my audio where you can hear it and you can see my screen. That would be really wonderful now that we're at, that timer's a little bit. Anyway, doesn't matter. All right, so we're starting with the amp. And the amp, I find a $300. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, I can do this under $1,000, blah, blah, blah. But the amp I was really going for, why? Well, one is tube. I do think even though the trade-offs where, you get a digital amp, whatever the hell it's called, then you have a lot, it can model different amps, it can have headphones out, all this stuff is very nice, but to me, it's like, if I was going to go back, I mean, this is the amp I own, I would buy it used, but I would buy this same amp. Now, I'd say the trade-off under $1,000, this is a Vox amp, which is probably the one, I guess Marshall is kind of more powerful. Probably Fender is actually the amp that where it kind of sits in the middle, and Vox is kind of a more opinionated sound, right? But Fender, I basically I was looking for effects, right? I want a cheap value tube with something on it, right? And Fender, I think Princeton has tremolo and reverb. I think they misnamed tremolo vibrato. I think they're called like vibe and vibrato and stuff, but it really is tremolo. And tremolo is modulation. So modulation is changing the signal over time. And this stack and really the basic ones are tremolo, vibrato, and chorus. There are others, right? But we'll try to stick on this. So I get tremolo out of this amp, and tremolo is amplitude, right? It's the level, the volume of the signal, and what it's modulating is, you're playing something straightforward, kind of the same volume, and it is modulating over time as your signal is sustained, so you're like holding a note, and it's going to kind of it's going to take the level down, so you get kind of this pulsing audio effect. And then chorus and vibrato, yes, which are both on the Memory Man. The deluxe Memory Man it's a delay pedal first, but it has chorus and vibrato on it, which I did not know until today. And I'm like, I've got my setup, my pedals that can do more than one thing. And chorus and vibrato, chorus is messing with pitch and instead of amplitude, right? And so chorus and vibrato are very related. You can almost even say like they're both the same thing with different settings. And it would help to have a visualization, but I don't, so I'll try to use my hands or something. Chorus, maybe vibrato is easier to explain, because vibrato is basically one signal in and out, and chorus is one in and two out. Maybe sometimes more than two, but I don't think so. I think it's always one in, two out. And so it's the same signal, but it's mixed, right? So it's kind of not putting it on two parallel channels. So vibrato comes in, and they both have to do with pitch. The other thing, modulation, would be phase, right? Phaser, and phase means timing, right? So phaser, I think, would be kind of like a chorus where there's two channels out, because if you just knocked off the phase and send out one signal, I can't imagine that would be a perceivable effect. So a phaser, I believe the Univibe is kind of a phaser. I think that's like the closest things it's to. I don't think it messes with pitch or amplitude. It says chorus on it, whatever. But so a phaser is going to mess with the time, so you're going to have these two waves, and one's going to be, I think, kind of, well, I guess it can't go in front of, I don't know if it has a delay on it, whatever. It messes with the time, modulates it, and it creates two signals so the ear can kind of hear this difference. Okay, we don't have a phaser. Let's get back on track for our $1,000. So with chorus and vibrato, one signal out, the pitch, it's basically like 100% mix, so you're going to get some wobble in the pitch. I think just like a semitone, half step, maybe full step, but I don't think so. I think you're talking about cents, right? You're talking about cents in between pitches, but a little wobbly. And then the chorus, what it does is it's kind of like a vibrato with a mix knob, right? So the mix on the vibrato is all the way up. I think maybe chorus is also time delayed, so it would be kind of phase. I know I'm getting a little hairy here, but let me get back on track here. That was pretty close, and in the end, go to your local music store and experiment with these sounds, see if they have pedals that you can try out or whatever, or go listen to YouTube videos, because the ear really gets down to it. Anyways, all right, so the amp is informing my other decisions. I chose an amp because I wanted one. Actually, this has pretty good EQ, right? We have the top boost channel, we have bass and treble, and then later we have tone cut, right? So we have some EQ, and it's at different stages. So this is, to me, this is really great. Also, you have a spring reverb, so it's not the greatest reverb. You could certainly go out there and buy a reverb pedal, or use your DAW. And that is true. You could, if you're plugging in a computer, you could use your DAW for whatever effect you want, right? And a lot of stuff's free or very cheap. Also, we do sell pedal plugins, right? We have our line of Manifold pedalboard and pedal plugins. jalopy.music website for sale now. But let's see here. So I have tremolo and reverb. So basically my idea is like, I only have $1,000. I don't want to double that up, right? I've got this amp, $300, tube amp, these two effects on it. Great. So then I kind of really at first, the Tumnus Deluxe was on my mind. Active EQ, 3 bands. I'm trying to look up, but I think that says mids. So I think these top 3 knobs are active EQ. Active EQ, so like a tube screamer has a tone knob, right? And what a tone knob is all the way clockwise is basically, it's a filter. It's a high cut filter, a low pass filter, a tone knob. You know, I think 99% of the time, if you see a tone knob, that's what it's doing. Probably not all the time. But on a tube screamer, it is a low pass filter. You're cutting the high end. And so you crank it all the way clockwise and you get full spectrum. It is passive, meaning that it's just cutting, it's filtering. It's not like power is not applied to this EQ circuits, and so it can't boost frequencies. A tube screamer has a natural kind of EQ to it in that it just, you can't control it, but it boosts the mid. I guess probably that boost mid hump, if you crank the tone all the way down, you're probably hitting that territory, but it's probably not the sound you want unless you want something very specific. I'd say a tone on a tube screamer is like north, or 1 or 2 o'clock, a little brighter. I think basically overdrive pedal like that, distortion is adding harmonics going off into the high end, and so typically you want to kind of add that distortion and then crank off the high end, right? You want kind of that mid-high. I actually hate the tube screamer mid hump. It's probably the audio engineering. There's no control. I dial in my guitar tone, I push my tube screamer, and I'm like, ah! So part of this was actually like coming up with pedalboard to adapt with that tube screamer and putting something that has like a 3-band EQ before and after it. I will say on the pedals, the KISS, keep it simple, what I do not have for 2 reasons is what's called a graphic equalizer, right? There's like a Boss, there's a few of these, where it has like 8 bands with sliders on like the little tiny form factor, and I'm like, screw that. Like, I'm not gonna, what am I gonna be doing? And then it'll just drive me nuts, right? So the 3 knobs, 3-band, active EQ, I feel like that's the sweet spot. I will say one of my favorite pedals is the JHS Color Box, which not only has 3 knobs, like this, the Wampler, 3 knobs for those 3 bands, boost or cut, right? But it also it can choose the frequency that you're pinpointing, right? So that's a lot of control, and just 6 knobs. I feel like that's like an incredible EQ. So that pedal gives you clean boost. It gives you like analog console saturation breakup, which is feels different from an overdrive pedal. It's a little more niche, I feel like. Overdrive is kind of like a much more standard type of distortion. So one of the reasons that it's really expensive. That's one thing with that stupid thing. So it blow the budget. Another thing is that I would go for this kind of a clean boost to an overdrive pedal, even though it can act. I would say mostly budget, but again, I think I would bet that this Wampler Tumnus Deluxe kind of hits more of a sweet spot of a more usable, versatile sound for that crunch. Okay, so gain level, we're at the Tumnus, so we're going through audio effects, let's say. On the amp, tremolo, reverb. On the Tumnus, now we add, and also on here, right, on the amp you have pushing it high, push the gain higher. Also we have EQ, but you also push the EQ higher and you get that saturation. So here we have gain, saturation, and EQ. Gain, saturation, and EQ. Gain, saturation, and EQ. I guess here, what do we have here? We have gain, and we have a tone knob. Yeah, so a little bit right there, a little passive EQ. Even though I think gain here and EQ, I'd say a lot of the time, you're just at 10 on both, right? The guitar is passive. You just want full signal. There's a couple applications where you roll off, but I would say probably to me, I would just want the full signal. Excuse me. coming from the guitar, and then later down the chain here, I'm gonna dial it in. Normal or hot mode. I see this switch. So this thing, yeah, man, wish I had money. I'd buy it. So with the pedals, right, you have the instrument and you have the amp, and in between you have 2 pedals here. And I've tried to cram in 2 pedals, and then you have a pedal board, right? I would say the major 2 phases, right? Like we talked about gain staging with multiple pedals, different types of distortion. But really, I would say you have 2, higher level phases in your pedal board as you're kind of mentally modeling it. First phase being distortion in the broadest term, gain and distortion, and the second phase being modulation and time effects. Right, those would be 2 categories. But and the order kind of matters. Distortion before those effects is the standard kind of the thing. You want to modulate the distorted signal because it sounds cooler, sounds more better, whatever. So the Memory Man. Let's get to the Memory Man. So we're looking at, I can't believe, echo, chorus, and vibrato. Right, delay. I knew it as a delay pedal, but the fact that you can just throw in on this $1,000 under, super simple 2 pedal setup and get chorus and vibrato, that's really spectacular. Really spectacular. It says chorus / vibrato, blend, level. So I guess chorus, vibrato, and depth, right? And blend. So I'm thinking that this is depth. Blend. I'm guessing that this chorus vibrato knob would be a rate, right? So chorus and vibrato, is it like a slow wave, this undulation, or is it something really fast? I'm guessing that's what the chorus vibrato. I'm guessing that this isn't like a full featured, chorus vibrato type thing, and I don't know if you can detach, like, can you go no delay and only chorus vibrato? But I'm guessing I'm guessing that depth, and this would be rate, the CHRS/VIBR. So this would be depth and rate, and then you'd use the blend knob. And if you blended all the way up 100%, you'd be in vibrato, and otherwise you'd be mixing the original signal, and it would sound more like a chorus, which chorus is like pop, 80s, The Cure, right? Where it's kind of this wide, bright thing, right? And vibrato, I feel like, can kind of fit more. Vibrato, when I really use it, I get, my pedal has like a warp type thing on it, so it kind of, like knocks, so it's almost like bending or something, it's like kind of makes a clean guitar signal a little wonky in time, a little off pitch. And kind of fits in more folk rock, bluesy rock kind of a feel. A little bit of like, I guess, like an indie feel to it to me, So that's what I'm thinking. Just looking at this knob, not knowing too much about it, that chorus vibrato is the rate, how fast this modulation is going. Depth is, well, I guess with pitch, it's like how far it's knocking off pitch. Depth is another ear thing, right? Where it's like, kind of how far is it going, right? Like tremolo, how much is it dampening, right? And blend is how much a mix, right? How much of the clean signal you're sending in versus the affected signal. And what that really here with the chorus vibrato, first of all, vibrato would be 100% mix. And what ends up happening as you blend is with chorus, right? You get kind of this broadening brightness, that type thing. But this is mostly a delay pedal. So you have a delay knob and a feedback. Delay, blend, chorus. Again, the delay knob it would kind of make sense for that to be a rate, you know, where they're differentiating. They don't want two rate knobs, right? So I'm guessing that this delay is, you know, far, you know, kind of like this cranked counterclockwise would be like a slapback, where it really kind of just makes it feel thicker, you know. And so this, I would say this what we're looking at. Well, don't look at the level or the blend, but the delay and feedback here all the way counterclockwise, I think that's probably a slapback, right? It's like the delay that you have to listen really closely to hear it as an echo or a delay, right? It's not so fast that there's no human on earth who can't perceive it, but in the mix, you're not thinking, oh, that guitar has a delay on it, right? It's a slapback. It is another way to kind of thicken things up, right? Because literally, it's kind of like, you know, it is bump bump. It's two different signals, but they're really close together, so it's like the same note, bam bam. So we have, yeah, so delay, I'm gonna guess that's rate, right? And so you can have, with delay and feedback is basically repeats, and the delay, I'm guessing, is this rate this time. And so you can you can crank both of those, let's say both of them at noon, and you'd probably have something like you play a single note, bing, and you hear it, bing, bing. Yeah, and then that could stretch that out for as long as it would go, with basically feedback, number of repeats, delay, how much time between each delayed signal. Level and blend, yeah. So yeah, dial it in here. So under $1,000. I'm proud of this setup. Wish I could go back in time, save my money. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good setup. Buy yourself a Shure SM57 mic, buy yourself a audio interface, and certainly for under $1,500 with cables, you would be in really damn good shape, I'd say. Like, skill would be the only thing that would be a barrier between you and recording a really fantastic song, right? All right, it's Brian Edwards. Jalopy.music is the company. Jalopy.music is the website. We sell plugins. We have a synthesizer. We have a Mtron-based effects plugin. We have Tacklebox, the amp that you can break down the components and build your own amp. We have 100 audio effect guitar pedals and a pedalboard system that is open-ended. So our pedals go in there, you know, obviously nice and tight, right? The UI is great. And then any audio effect you want, you can drop it in with our pedals, put them in order, just drop right in. So it's a VST host, right? And if you don't want to use the pedal board, if you want to use our individual pedals, they're all VST plugins. So if you want something like in your DAW, maybe like if you want to put delay and reverb after your amp, kind of a thing, that's all supported. But yeah, till next time.